Welcome back to our final segment here of World Crisis Radio. Let's try to talk some economics here. On this health bill, the idea of extending Medicare to those between 55 and 64 is in itself a good idea. Remember, the goal of all this ought to be Medicare for all. Anybody who wants to buy in can buy in at a moderate, affordable price. In my comprehensive program for 30 million new productive jobs to bring about economic recovery in the United States, I point out Medicare should be available to anybody at the current rate, which is paid by seniors. In other words, $100 per person per month. That's the Medicare premium. $100 per person per month. Discount for a family. Discount if you're unemployed. Discount if you're in poverty. Discount if you're a student. Other discounts. But generally, $100 a month. Buy into Medicare. If you take it to 55 to 64, that's a step in the right direction. But here's the problem. This bill also contains the $500 billion in Medicare cuts, which Obama is demanding, and Orsag and the rest of these ghouls in the Democratic Party. They're attacking the heritage of Lyndon B. Johnson and the Medicare bill of 1965. McCain had the presence of mind to offer an amendment rolling back those $500 billion in genocidal Medicare cuts, and that was defeated. The Democrats are all on record now saying, no, we demand $500 billion in Medicare cuts. And this is where Olbermann on MSNBC showed his true nature as a shill. He doesn't care about health care. He's carrying water for the Democratic demagogues. Olbermann calls those cuts savings, waste, fraud, and inefficiency. Waste, fraud, and abuse, Olbermann. I'm sure. You cut $1.5 trillion out of anything, it is impoverished. So the inherent contradiction is you want to put more people into Medicare, and at the same time you want to take $500 billion out of it. This does not add up. What I propose, $100 per person you buy into per person per month. You buy into Medicare. How do you pay? Well, easy. You end the war in Iraq. You end the war in Afghanistan. You begin to thin out the bases and other military expenditures overseas. Although you do that gradually, nothing abrupt, nothing that's going to upset the apple cart and cause regional wars like South Korea. You want to leave most of them there, at least for the moment. Maybe Okinawa, not needed so much, and so on and so on. If the people want you to leave, then fine. But here's the thing. The Tobin tax, the securities transfer tax, the trading tax, the derivatives tax, the tax on Wall Street. We now have the British and the French. They want to tax bonuses. Fine, tax bonuses, right? Windfall bonuses for zombie bankers. All right, but see, that's demagogy because the really big money is in derivatives turnover, stocks, bonds, options, futures, over-the-counter derivatives, exchange-traded derivatives, commodities, and foreign exchange, and the rest of it. That's where the money is. And a protective tariff. Yes, indeed. A 10%, modest at the beginning, protective tariff, which would bring in revenue. It would be a combined protective and revenue tariff to end this monstrosity of globaloney. We're sick of it. And notice that the free traders and the Austrian school devotees want total free trade without even the minimal regulations against dumping that you have in the WTO and NAFTA and the rest of it. So again, they want to expose your naked flesh to the full fury of the market in a depression. And if you die, of course, you're consoled because it was done for the market. Now, the other question is, why is Medicare underfunded? Yeah, because it's been massively looted and raped by Mad Dog Bush the Younger for 2 terms with the complicity of a Republican reactionary Congress. You'll remember Newt the Toot Gingrich said, Medicare, let it wither on the vine. Underfund it, and it will die. That's Gingrich. So now you're left with this situation. It's full of contradictions, so there's no solution on the table. But here's a very interesting thing. The Washington Post is not happy with the idea of expanding Medicare because they essentially say that this is much more significant than most people are willing to admit. And that is to say, excuse me, that is to say that extending Medicare might become something important. The last-minute introduction of this idea, writes the Washington Post, within the broader context of health reform, raises numerous questions, not least of which is whether this proposal is a far more dramatic step towards a single-payer system than lawmakers on either side realize. Yes, indeed, it may be so. And we've also got Henry Aaron of the Brookings Institution saying essentially the same thing, that this is much more far-reaching than many people seem to realize, that once you begin extending Medicare, this is actually more radical than the single payer. Remember, the single payer was a wretched excuse for the lack of Medicare for all. Here's what Henry Aaron says. This changes the game completely. It would be far more significant, potentially, than the kinds of public options that the House and the Senate have been reduced to considering. So the big question is, you got to fund it. You can't have the Medicare reimbursement rates being at the current miserable level. Now, here's the other side of it. The TARP. Geithner was on Capitol Hill today, under fire, of course, because of his ineptitude and crony capitalism and all the rest of it. Goldman Sachs has paid back the TARP. We've got Citibank is in the process of paying back the TARP now, the bailout, of course. And this is also Bank of America is in the process has paid back the TARP. But here's the thing. When this bailout, the TARP, was sold, including by Obama and by McCain and by Palin, they all sold it. They all supported the bailout. Palin supported the bailout. Don't forget it, gang. She was all in favor of Wall Street bailouts at that point when they needed them. Now that they're not needed anymore, she doesn't want it. The whole idea that was, if you save Wall Street, you're saving Main Street, because, of course, if you save the Wall Street banks, the story went, that will provide credit for Main Street. Well, now we see it's not true. These are zombie banks. They have no social purpose, no useful role in society whatsoever. They are zombie banks. They're there to collect fees, to speculate with proprietary trading, and to issue derivatives. They are a cancerous mass on the society. So that is why Obama is now turning around, and also Pelosi, and they say we need another stimulus to get jobs because the credit is not available. The zombie banks are not lending. But we've somehow lost the whole point that the reason for the bailout was so that the banks would lend. Now, we've got to stop federal borrowing. Enough federal borrowing already. We need federal lending. And this then dovetails with the ferment around the Federal Reserve. Will DeShill, George Will, columnist in the Washington Post and elsewhere, is very worried that the political independence of the Federal Reserve is going to be compromised by frequent audits. And we have Ron Paul doing something good. We have DeMint on the Republican side. We have Bernie Sanders. They all want to audit the Fed. And the idea is that if you audit the Fed often enough, you can signal that you don't like their policies. Well, that's fine. Notice also, though, some of these Republican reactionaries like DeMint and one Congressman Paul Ryan of Wisconsin, they want to say that the only purpose of the Fed is to keep the monetary mass stable, no inflation, and give up the idea that you're committed to full employment, which was introduced under the Humphrey-Hawkins bill in the late 70s. Well, no, guys, full employment is necessary, and we need it. Therefore, we're going to nationalize the Fed and issue 0% credit for production. Stop federal borrowing. Start federal lending. Be your own bank. The zombie banks won't do it. can't do it. You can't borrow more. Deficit spending has to come to an end. Time to seize the Fed and use that credit power to generate 30 million high technology, productive jobs, high capital investment per jobs, and you will get